Hey guys, this is Seagrove. I want to talk to you today about Keith and Piglet and Team Liquid's decision to stay with Piglet. So first I want to go through, kind of list out all the reasons for each side and then discuss them and then end with why I think Team Liquid has made the decision to keep Piglet. So first of all, the arguments for Keith's side. Number one, better results. This isn't really arguable. The team has a better win rate with Keith. Secondly, the team atmosphere seems to be better with Keith. And then lastly, Keith has a really good attitude, and Piglet's had some issues there. And then the arguments for Piglet are Piglet's a better mechanical player. Piglet brings the team more potential, is what Liquid and X Special have been saying. And Piglet can practice both in the morning and in the evening, while Keith is at high school in the morning, so he can't practice in the morning for both scrim blocks. So, based on that, let's walk through each of those. So with Keith, first of all, we said Keith has a better win rate. Team Liquid's 5-1 with Keith playing, and they're 3-7 with Piglet playing. If we extrapolate that data, which obviously it would change a few things, and it probably wouldn't be perfect, but obviously we're just saying, if they kept that same win percentage, probably wouldn't happen. Could do better, could do worse. We can't say. But anyways, if we assume they keep the same win percentage with Keith, they would be 15-3 at the end of the full season, which would put them at number 1 spot. With Piglet, they would be 5 or 6. I guess it'd be like 5.4, but 5 or 6 out of their 18 games. So it'd be 5-13 or 6-12, which would put them in the relegation, or at least certainly not in playoffs. They'd be kind of there with Winter Fox and Dignitas, and kind of depends on where things played out. But that's a huge difference between the best team. Their record is the best in the league with Keith, and it's between 7, 8, and 9 with Piglet. The second thing, Piglet seems to have, whether or not it's his fault, Piglet seems to have bring a worse atmosphere with the team. And a good atmosphere begets a good atmosphere, and a bad atmosphere begets a bad atmosphere. In other words, like, having a bad atmosphere is self-perpetuating. Like, if your team is losing, you have a bad attitude, and then you have a bad attitude, so your team does worse, and your team's doing worse, so you have a worse attitude. And then if that becomes the norm for the team, that's a huge problem. So that's the reason to get Keith. Like, we don't want this kind of a bad atmosphere to become the norm for our team. And then the last thing, Keith just has a good attitude, good work ethic. Obviously, Piglet has a great work ethic too, but Keith is just excited. He's young. He's fresh blood in the scene, so that's really good for him. And then we have Piglet. With Piglet, we have number 1, he's a mechanically better player. That seems very obvious. You watch the games, you can see it. Look at their CS numbers. Especially, I mean, after laning phase it's different because they're playing differently with the different AD carries, but if you look at Piglet's CS numbers in lane, they tend to be higher than Keith's. So there's that. And then the second reason, Liquid and X Special have claimed that Piglet brings more potential to the team, like in ALCS playoffs and eventually in international events. I don't agree with that claim. They want to be a competitor internationally, so they pick up Piglet, Piglet peaked in Season 3. In Season 4, he didn't play very well. SKT T1K dropped him, and he wasn't able to get an offer that he wanted to stay in Korea. I don't know if he didn't get an offer at all, but he certainly didn't get an offer from a high team in Korea that he was willing to stay in Korea for, where that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to stay in Korea. Granted, this is before the mass exodus to China, and before teams knew that they were going to be 10 players on each roster. But still, he wasn't going to be on a team. It was very unlikely that he would end up on a team that would be going to play internationally. So if the teams that you're going to be playing against internationally aren't picking up this player because he's not good enough, what makes you think he's going to help you beat those teams? Yes, you can say Lost Boy beats EJ or whatever, but that's an outlier. That's rarely going to happen. That's not good logic. And then secondly, in terms of potential, Piglet's potential was peaked and reached in Season 3. He's been on a downward slope since then. He's not going to get back to that level. He might get back to a good level. But he was a top 3 AD carry. Like he was, I don't know if he's first, second, or third best AD carry in the world. If you looked at the World Championship from Season 3, the 3 top AD carries there were UZI, Piglet, and Imp. And I don't know what order to put them in. They were all playing really, really well. But he's not going to get back to that level. He might get up to a high level again. He will not get back to that level. I don't think that he has potential to get back to where he was. He can certainly get good again, but not back to where he was. And to say a player who has proven himself at the highest stage has potential is really a strange thing to say anyways. But Keith does have potential. He's young. He's inexperienced. He has done really well on the ladder in North America. He has high energy. Like, this is a kid that you could form into a really, really strong player. Probably, I mean, never going to be the level that Piglet was probably, but Piglet won't either, you know? So, I don't think that's a very good reason. And I don't think that's really why Liquid has made this decision. I think the real reason lies in the third thing that we said, and that is Piglet can practice both blocks, while Keith can only practice one. If Keith could practice both, I think Liquid would have taken Keith by now. Because he can't, they have to practice with someone else during the first block. And since that's the case, why not practice with Piglet when he does have a possibility of getting back to a really, really high level and then them being able to stick with him? And if you tell Piglet, okay, we're not going with you, we're going with Keith, then he's gonna shut down. Why would he practice really hard in the morning? A player who's already had attitude problems, how is he going to keep a good attitude and play hard in his morning scrims if he knows they're not going to go with him anyways? And I'm not saying that Liquid is pulling a fast one up Piglet or anything. I don't think that they're like, well, okay, we'll just tell him we're still going to go with him, and we'll play him for now, but really we're going to go with Keith. I think they have a hope that Piglet will improve and will get back to a really high level, and then they will stay with him. But right now, it would be detrimental to the team to not necessarily play Keith sometimes, but to say to Piglet, like, oh, we're done with you. That would be, I think, detrimental to them overall. And that's why I think they have chosen to go with Piglet here so far.